There are homes that are cleaned in bursts, and there are homes that rarely get messy to begin with. The difference is not energy. It is not discipline in the dramatic sense. It is design, behavioral design woven quietly into daily life. In many Japanese households, cleanliness is not an event. It is a byproduct of how small actions are arranged. The system is subtle enough that it doesn't feel like effort, yet strict enough that disorder never gains momentum. What we're looking at today is not a list of cleaning tricks. It is a set of behavioral patterns that reduce friction, reduce visual noise, and reduce the number of decisions that create clutter in the first place. If you live in a different country, in a different kind of home, with a completely different schedule, these habits can still translate. Because they are not about architecture, they are about psychology and physical form. Let's walk through 10 everyday Japanese habits that quietly prevent a home from becoming messy, not through intensity, but through structure. 1. The one-touch rule. In many Japanese homes, there is an unspoken expectation. When an action ends, the object involved returns to its resting place right away. This is not framed as discipline. It is framed as completion. You take off a jacket. The action is not finished when the jacket leaves your shoulders. It is finished when the jacket is on its hook. You drink tea. The moment does not end when the cup is empty. It ends when the cup is rinsed or placed where it belongs. This habit prevents what psychologists call open loops, unfinished visual tasks that keep lightly tugging at attention. A chair with clothes draped over it is not just visual clutter. It is a reminder that something is incomplete. By closing the loop in the same moment, objects do not enter a state of limbo. They do not become tomorrow's problem. They never become a pile. Try applying this to one category first: keys, bags, or dishes. Treat putting away as part of the original action, not a separate chore. You may notice the space begins to feel calmer, not because you cleaned more, but because you left fewer things unresolved. 2. The boundary at the door. In Japan, many homes have a physical and behavioral boundary between outside and inside. The space near the entrance is not just a place to step in. It is a transition point. Shoes come off, outdoor dust stays behind, the interior remains a protected zone. Even in homes without a traditional entry step, the idea can be recreated. A small mat, a defined shoe area, indoor slippers or socks. The effect is larger than it appears. Floors stay cleaner longer. Dust spreads more slowly. Cleaning frequency decreases without conscious effort. There is also a mental shift. Crossing into the home becomes intentional. You pause for a second. You reset from outside mode to inside mode. That small ritual anchors the idea that the home is a cared-for environment, not an extension of the street. When the boundary is clear, maintenance becomes easier because less mess is allowed to enter in the first place. 3. Ownership with purpose. A recurring mindset in many Japanese homes is that possessions are not neutral. They are responsibilities. An object without a role is a future source of disorder. An object with a clear purpose and place rarely causes trouble. This leads to quieter consumption habits. Before something enters the home, there is often an internal question. Where will this live? What function will it serve? When that question has no clear answer, the item often doesn't come in. Not out of strict minimalism, but out of practical foresight. The result is fewer homeless objects, items that drift from surface to surface because no one knows where they belong. If you want to apply this, choose one small area, maybe a drawer or a shelf. Remove everything. Return only what has a defined use and a defined home. Notice how quickly that area stops becoming messy once every object has a reason to be there. 4. Maintenance in tiny intervals. Instead of waiting for visible disorder to justify a major cleaning session, many Japanese households rely on maintenance in short, almost invisible intervals. A countertop is wiped while waiting for water to boil. A sink is rinsed right after use. A mirror is cleared of droplets before they dry. These actions often take less than a minute. Individually, they seem too small to matter. Collectively, they prevent buildup. This approach aligns with how habits actually form. Small, repeatable actions tied to existing routines. You are not starting to clean. You are simply extending what you are already doing by a few seconds. Because dirt and clutter are addressed at the earliest stage, they rarely grow into something that requires a long, draining effort. The home stays in a steady state of lightly maintained, rather than swinging between neglect and exhaustion. 5. Everything has an address. In many Japanese homes, objects are not just stored, they are assigned. Each item has an address, a specific drawer, basket, hook, or shelf that is understood as its default location. When an item has an address, putting it away does not require a decision. It requires a single movement. Decision fatigue is one of the hidden drivers of mess. When you are tired, even a small question like, "Where should this go?" becomes a reason to delay. So the item stays out. Clear addresses remove that friction. Return becomes automatic. You can build this gradually. Start with high-traffic items. Remote controls, chargers, mail, kitchen tools. Give each one a defined home. Make returning them there the standard ending to their use. Over time, surfaces stop becoming temporary parking lots, and tidying becomes less of a task and more of a reflex. 6. Use the height of the room. Space in many Japanese homes is limited, which encourages a vertical mindset. Walls are not empty backgrounds, they are storage opportunities. Hooks hold bags and coats. Shelves lift objects off counters. Hanging organizers keep small items visible and contained. When belongings rise off the floor and work surfaces, two things happen. Cleaning becomes easier because there is less to move, and the room feels larger because open space is preserved where the eye naturally rests. Vertical storage is not only about capacity, it is about visual order. Items that are upright, aligned, and visible are less likely to be forgotten and duplicated. Even a few added hooks or a narrow shelf can change how a room functions. The goal is not to fill every wall, but to relieve pressure from horizontal surfaces that tend to collect clutter. 7. Reset the kitchen as you move. In many Japanese kitchens, cooking and cleaning are not separate phases. They are intertwined. While ingredients simmer, used utensils are rinsed. Spills are wiped as soon as they happen. Packaging is cleared before the next step begins. This keeps the environment stable. By the time the meal is finished, the kitchen is already close to its original state. There is a psychological benefit here. The mind does not associate cooking with a looming mess. The process feels contained, not chaotic. Try keeping a cloth or sponge within reach while you cook. Treat pauses in the recipe as small reset moments. The kitchen will rarely reach the point where cleaning feels overwhelming, because disorder never has time to accumulate. 8. Scheduled resets, not emergency cleanups. Rather than cleaning only when things feel out of control, many Japanese households practice periodic resets. These are intentional sessions where clutter is reviewed, storage is adjusted, and hidden dust is addressed. The timing can vary, monthly, seasonally, or aligned with personal milestones. What matters is the predictability. When resets are expected, clutter does not build unnoticed for years. It is caught in earlier, lighter stages. There is also a mental effect. A reset creates a sense of renewal. Letting go of unused items and restoring order often brings the feeling of starting fresh, even without changing anything else in life. You can experiment with a seasonal reset. Choose a day to revisit storage areas, donate unused items, and clean overlooked corners. Think of it as maintenance for the environment you live in every day. 9. Protect empty surfaces. In many Japanese interiors, tables and counters are kept intentionally clear. Not because nothing is owned, but because visibility is controlled. Open surfaces provide visual rest. They also make daily cleaning faster, and wiping a clear counter takes seconds. When surfaces are limited to a few chosen items, perhaps a plant, a lamp, or a bowl, every object left out feels intentional. Random placement stands out immediately, making it easier to correct. You can test this by clearing one surface completely for a week. Return only what is used daily or truly meaningful. Notice how the space feels more spacious and how much less effort it takes to keep it that way. 10. Keep less but keep well. The final habit is less about reduction for its own sake and more about alignment. Possessions are chosen to match real life, not imagined scenarios. Items that are used, appreciated, or meaningful stay. Items that linger out of guilt or vague possibility gradually leave. Fewer items mean fewer decisions, fewer storage challenges, and fewer things that can fall out of place. But the focus is not emptiness, it is clarity. When a home contains what truly fits its owner's routines and values, maintenance becomes lighter. You are not constantly managing excess. You are caring for a smaller, more intentional environment. Before bringing something new home, pause and picture where it will live and how often it will be used. That small moment of foresight can prevent years of quiet clutter. A consistently tidy home rarely comes from bursts of motivation. It comes from systems that make disorder inconvenient and order natural. These Japanese habits show how small structural choices can shift the baseline. Less buildup, less visual noise, less mental friction. You do not need to adopt all 10 at once. Even one or two can begin to change how your space behaves and how you feel moving through it. A calm home is not an achievement, it is a pattern. Comment below, which one is you choosing? Now, if you want Japanese self-care habits that actually work, your next step is watching this video.